Happy Tuesday evening to everybody. This is Ms. Hampson for Screencastify number 3. I'm going to focus this on chapter 21, the reading that was due today. I wanted to point out some of the humor again that I wasn't sure if you were picking up on. If you look in chapter 21, the Duke and the King are preparing for this Shakespearean revival. They're going to bring high English tragic drama to these lowly Southerners. They're in Arkansas at this point. And the Duke, because he has some theater background, is trying to teach the King the right way to act. He's teaching him how to act like Juliet. It's just ridiculous. And I'm sure he picked up on that stuff. It's also kind of funny that the King continues to poke at the Duke and call him Bilgewater. The Duke says he's Duke of Bridgewater, but the King's like, nah, you're Duke of Bilgewater. And we know that Bilgewater means wastewater from a boat, potty water, which is kind of funny. Anyway, so what I wanted to point out is that the Duke wants the King to recite the Hamlet soliloquy, and he's trying to teach the King this Hamlet soliloquy. And the way that the Duke believes that he remembers it accurately. He doesn't. It's a mess. The Duke begins teaching the soliloquy incorrectly to the King by saying, "To be or not to be, that is the bare bodkin, that makes calamity of so long life. For who would fardels bear till Burnham wood do come to Dunsinane, but that the fear of something after death murders the innocent sleep, great nature's second course, and makes us rather sling the arrows of outrageous fortune than fly to others that we know not of." This is a mess. This is an absolute mess. So this is not at all a Hamlet soliloquy. You might already be noticing that it starts off as Hamlet soliloquy. In fact, I can show you what that speech looks like on poetryfoundation.org. Hamlet's soliloquy does start out, "To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished." So in Hamlet, this is a super serious speech. Hamlet has discovered that his uncle murdered his dad, stole the throne from him, and Hamlet is beside himself. He's basically suicidal at this point in the play. So this is such a serious speech that the Duke is messing up, and he's merging it with another Shakespearean play, another serious moment from Shakespeare, where Macbeth and the Tragedy of Macbeth, or the Scottish play, as we know it's also called for superstitious reasons. Macbeth has just killed King Duncan, and Macbeth is freaking out, and he tells his wife, "Methought I heard a voice cry, 'Sleep no more! Macbeth does murder sleep, the innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life, sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast." So he's freaking out. His wife is downplaying all the stuff that's happening to him. And it's important that when the Duke believes he's doing justice to Hamlet's soliloquy, he is butchering it. He's annihilating it. And he's merging two very serious speeches. Hamlet, who's heartbroken in this moment, and Macbeth, who's also panic-stricken. So it's a combination of like shock by the audience, and this definitely counts as satire. He thinks he's doing a great job delivering Shakespeare, but he's screwing it up and taking two very serious moments from Shakespearean tragedy in the process of making a mockery of it. So just wanted to point that out to you in case you missed it. Something else that's important, scrolling down a bit further into chapter 21, is they have stumbled into quite a town here. They are in some backwoods Arkansas town. They have Huck and Jim, and sadly the Duke and the King, because they're stuck with them. They have definitely missed Cairo, Illinois. They missed their exit to get off of the Mississippi River, jump on the Ohio towards the Free States. And now they're heading into the Deep South. And we can see this in chapter 21 with this really strange town that they've wandered into. So they're in some backwoods Arkansas town. And right away they can see, wow, they're in kind of a scary area. If you look at this one particular paragraph, It says, all the streets and lanes was just mud. There weren't nothing else but mud. Mud as black as tar and nigh about a foot deep in some places and 2 or 3 inches deep in all the places. The hogs loafed and grunted around everywheres. You'd see a muddy sow and a litter of pigs come lazing along the street and whoop herself right down in the way where folks had to walk around her. And she'd stretch out and shut her eyes, wave her ears whilst the pigs was milking her and look as happy as if she was on salary. So it's this very, oh my gosh, like disorganized, messy town. Animals are kind of wandering around. And what's interesting is Huck notices that the way these people entertain themselves, it's very violent, to the point where further into the paragraph he says, then they'd settle back again till there was a dog fight. Like they like to see brutal violence between animals. There couldn't anything wake them up all over and make them happy all over like a dog fight, unless it might be putting turpentine on a stray dog and setting fire to him, or tying a tin pan to his tail and see him run himself to death. So this is a violent town. They enjoy dog fights, animal fights. They'll light a dog on fire just to for kicks. I mean, this is a really screwed up place. The reason this is all very important is because later on in chapter 21, Huck witnesses an awful gunfight between this drunk old guy, Boggs, who's been bothering this other guy, Colonel Sherburne. And Sherburn's like, you better stop bothering me. If you don't, I'm just going to shoot you. And Boggs, because he's a drunk, he does not know when to say when. He continues to bother Sherburne, and Sherburne has enough, and he shoots him. Sherburne just shoots him, unarmed, right? So Boggs is unarmed, just making a pest of himself. Sherburne shoots him, and the crowd's reaction to this is very interesting. They initially are interested in reenacting what has happened to Boggs. They're playing it out. This one paragraph says, let's see, one long, lanky man with long hair and a big white fur stovepipe hat on the back of his head and a crooked handled cane marked out the places on the ground where Boggs stood, where Sherburne stood, and they're basically reenacting what happened. Then, all of a sudden, after people are bored of reenacting the gunfight, someone decides, hey, let's lynch Sherburne. And lynching is a terribly violent death, going after a person with a rope, stringing them up from a tree. It's disgusting. And this was happening a lot in the South, especially after the Civil War when Twain is writing this. And it just was out of control and disgusting. So the start of chapter 22, which you're going to read tonight, that's going to be due on Wednesday, a whole crazy mob is going to surround Colonel Sherburne at his house, and they're going to try to lynch him. They're going to try to kill him because he killed Boggs. It's just this wild, angry mob. So read this part carefully. It's going to be a very important speech by Colonel Sherburne. Okay, Miss Hampson once again has made this screencastify too long. I'm sorry. I hope this is helpful though, and I hope you guys are doing well. I miss you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye.